Hello, I'm Maria. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the Milla messenger bag, which is a free pattern download from Art Gallery Fabric Studios. In your kit you'll have 3 different canvases. Fabric A is the biggest piece, fabric B is the smallest piece, and fabric C is the long piece that's the full width of the fabric. That's about 8 inches, and that's going to be the strap. And then you have a piece of quilting cotton, which is going to be the lining, some Velcro and thread, your instructions, and a piece of fusible fleece, as well as your basic sewing tools. So we won't be following the instructions exactly, because that's not really my style. I like to change things around, look at it and say, yeah, you know, I think I can do that a little differently. So there will be notes. I've already made changes in your instructions. And here's all the pieces from fabric A. We've got the back of the bag. These are part of the flap, the lower part of the flap, which is cut from the pattern piece. 2 pocket pieces, and the side piece, which is the full width of the fabric. This is going to be trimmed down later. From fabric B, we just need 1 piece, and this is going to be the front of the bag. It's going to be peeking underneath the flap, and the pocket's going to be attached down there. From fabric C, we'll have 4 strap pieces. These are attached to the flap and they are going to have Velcro on them. And this is the strap. From the lining piece, we need front and back, and then 1 piece that is 3 inches by the width of the fabric. And this is going to be the side of the bag. There's the fold right there. And this is leftover fabric, and because the pattern does not include a pocket, I think that's very sad. And we have this leftover fabric, so I think we're gonna just make a pocket. I'm gonna cut it in half, like right around here, so we'll end up with a piece that is about 8 inches by 18 inches or so, because there's a fold right here. Okay, so I've got a piece that's about 9 by 18. From the fusible fleece, we have a front and a back piece, the side piece, which is the full width of the fabric, and then I have some leftovers, and we're going to be using that for the flap, but don't cut out the flap piece yet. We're going to do it after the first part of the flap has been sewn together, and then we'll just do the full size of it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is put the Velcro pieces onto our strap pieces. So we need to cut the Velcro in half. You should have a 3-inch piece, so that's cutting them to be 1.5 inches. Choose 2 pieces that are going to be the bottom of your straps. I'm going to pick these ones with more of a design. Those are going to be for the top, so we'll put them aside. And we're going to mark 2 inches up from the bottom. So I'm going to put the hook Velcro on the straps like this. Place them right on the center of that little mark we made. Parker, you're very helpful today. Thank you. Yes. You want some glue on you? I really like this glue. It just washes away. If you ever wash your bag, that glue will be gone. So we're just gonna sew 4 sides. I always find it better with Velcro to just, if you have an exact match for thread color, it's just gonna look nicer. So I'm gonna try to find some white thread and use that. So now we're going to pair these with the other half, right sides together, one with Velcro, one without. We'll pin those together, and we're going to sew all the way around except for the top edge, so the part that has no Velcro. We're going to sew these two together, 3 sides, with the Velcro on the bottom part, and this is the part we're going to leave open, that short side. And I'm just going to do a 3/8 seam allowance for this. So now we're just going to turn these right side out, trim the corners away first. And the easier way to do this is to start from the closed end and just try to open it up and push a little piece of it in. Once you can get it started, then you can use a point turner to push it in. The fabric's really thick. I'm going to put it in the other way so that I can use the point to poke out those corners. A little pressing and top stitching, it's going to look beautiful. So now we're going to press these and then we'll top stitch 3 sides. We want to make sure that the seams are out to the edge. So we're top stitching 3 sides. Whenever we're top stitching, especially with canvas, I like to just lengthen my stitch to 3. I find that it makes the stitch stand out a little bit better and just looks nicer. When you turn a corner and it's bulky, which it is in here, sometimes this is where your sewing machine wants to get a little bit stuck, so just be ready for that, and if you just push the fabric through a little bit, it shouldn't get stuck on that spot. So now we need 1 flat piece. This one's going to be the top, and we're going to be sewing these strips down onto the flap, and we'll be measuring 2 1/4 inches in from the side. That's where the edge of the strap's going to go. And I'll be sewing again on top of my top stitch that I did here. I'm going to stop about 1 inch from the edge of the flap, go across, and then sew back up there. So we'll be coming down here, across around here, and back up there. And the same thing with this one. We need to be able to leave these free so that we can stitch the other half of the flap onto here without touching the strip. So we have 2 flat pieces, and then we're going to get the top part of the flap, and we'll be sewing these down right sides together like that. We'll be sewing across here and right across there. And for the rest of the construction of the bag, we'll be doing 1/2 inch seam allowances. Get rid of my blue marker. I'm press the fabric up this way. And with the back piece, I think I will press the seam open. So the top part of my flaps were a little bit wider than the flaps, so I'm just going to trim these down to match. And now I'm going to cut a piece of fusible fleece the same size as this flap, and we're going to fuse that together. And now we'll iron those together. So this is the bumpy side. The glue side of the fusible fleece is facing up. Now we're going to put the two flap pieces right sides together. I'm going to start by pinning the sides in a couple of spots so that it's nice and smooth at the top section. So I've pinned it at the top so it's nice and flat. Now I need to tuck these under. I didn't want to tuck them in first because then it makes it harder to have the whole piece lay flat. And we're going to sew around the whole thing with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and just make sure that you're not sewing on your strap at all, your strip pieces. So we're going to start sewing at a 1/2 inch seam allowance up here, and then as we come down here we're going to go to a 1/4 inch. So we'll be sewing in here for the rest of the way. So we'll do a 1/4 here, and then when we get back up to this side, we're going up to a 1/2. So now we can turn this right side out. We're going to press that and top stitch. We'll top stitch around the curved line as well as straight across the top here. So the flap is done, and next we're going to be putting together the pocket onto the front of the bag. But first we need to figure out where the other pieces of Velcro are going to go. So we'll take the front piece of the bag, that accent piece, and take one of the pocket pieces, and whichever pocket piece you want to be your front, and place that lined up with the bottom of the accent piece like this. And then we'll take the flap, and this seam, we're going to line it up with the top edge of the accent piece here and just center it in place. And this is how it's going to sit when it's finished. We'll just peek under here and find out the edge of the Velcro right here. You can mark where that's going to be, and that's where we're going to place the Velcro. Now we'll go stitch those pieces down. So now we're going to put the two pocket pieces right sides together, and we're going to sew across the top edge right across there. So we're going to take that seam and press it open. And then I'm going to fold it and press that seam at the top. And we're going to top stitch across here. So we're going to fuse the fusible fleece to both the front and back of the bag, the accent piece and the back, as well as the long strip that's the side of the bag. We'll fuse that to the side piece here. If they're not the same size, that's okay. We'll just leave one piece extra. We'll cut that off later. Now we're going to position the pocket on the bottom of the front piece. We'll sew around the 3 sides at the bottom, and we'll also mark a line to divide the pocket in 2 right across there. I'm going to use this chalk wheel to draw a line down the middle here with my ruler. Okay, so now we have the completed front, and we've got the side panel or the gusset. This is going to be going around the bag, and it just gives it that depth, so it's like the whole piece that goes around, and the other half of it's going to be attached to the back. So I'll show you how to do this in a way that is pretty straightforward. This gusset piece is too long right now. We're going to be trimming it off, but we'll leave it the full length for now. We'll start on the right side of the bag. I'm going to line this up with the right side of the gusset or the side panel like that, and we're just going to clip it together along there. Okay, so it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we want to try to keep that consistent because it will impact how the bag fits on the other side as well. So we want to make sure it's the same all the way around. So we want to stop sewing a 1/2 inch from this end and stop with the needle down. So now we lift the presser foot, turn the bag first, and then to turn the side panel, we'll just sort of fold this off to the side, like this. Put the presser foot back down and carry on. If it helps, you can mark where you want to stop. Turn the bag, push the side panel to the back and let it fold. So you can see there's quite a bit left over of this. I'm going to flip it upside down. Now I can cut off whatever's left right here. So we have it sewn to the front. Now we need to put it on the back. And this time we're going to want to be lining up the corners so that they're all the same. I think we'll sew with the right side of the back facing up, because this is how we did it last time. And I'm just going to put a couple clips in. So you can see here, I just snipped the corner of the side panel piece, just where it went around the corner. And the same here, and that allows it to open up so it's smoother. But we're going to use that corner to find out where the corner should be on the other side. So I'm going to do this and just take a little snip, and that's going to help us fit it when we go around the other side. The snip should be about 1/2 inch because that's the size of the seam allowance. Like that. All right. You see, as we're coming close to the corner, it looks like it's not quite big enough, and we might have to bring it in just a little, but that's okay. It will still look good. Pull that out there. So I sort of straightened out the gusset, even though it's curved here. I've straightened it out so I can sew it the same way I did the last time. So I'm coming straight down towards the corner. Needles down, lift, turn the piece underneath. Just give it a little tug to straighten it out. And then this piece is like that, and we got a really good corner. Now we'll see where this is landing. You might have to play around with your fabric just a little bit to get those corners to match. And I'm pushing the top fabric through a little bit more than the bottom fabric. I'm not really making puckers or anything, but I'm just sort of easing it in so that by the time I get over here, hopefully those corners match up perfectly. So I'm gonna just trim the corners away a little bit, just the seam allowance, just a bit. I don't wanna get too close because this fabric does fray a lot. Now we can turn it. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing to the lining, but first let's put a pocket in the lining. So I have this piece like this. It's already got a nice little fold for me, so I'm gonna fold it the opposite way of that fold, lining up those 3 sides. This is gonna be the top. And I'm going to sew an L shape right here, stop around there, start again here, and do another L shape up this side. Then we'll flip it out through this little opening. So I'm starting where the fold is at the top. We'll just trim those corners off, and we'll turn the whole thing. Now we'll press this. Okay, so we're gonna stitch the pocket, which has been pressed. There's a little opening right here. That's gonna be the bottom. We're gonna top stitch it closed. It's gonna be the bottom of the pocket. It'll be like that. So to find where to put it, I'm going to just fold this in half so I can find the center and just finger press. And just stick it in there. There, and we'll be sewing from this corner across, down there, and back up here. And as we go across here, we're sewing up that little opening. Okay, so to make the lining fit well inside the bag, we're going to trim it down by about 1/4 inch. And now we'll set up the gusset. I'm going to mark a 1/2 inch seam allowance. That's where I'm turning. Turn the bottom first, and then push. This time I clipped the corners as I was sewing. I'm gonna do that again here. So I am famous for forgetting to leave a hole in my lining so that I can turn it right way around later. So this is what you do if you forget. Just seam rip. We need a space like about 4 or 5 inches wide. And I am gonna secure it here and there. I'm gonna backstitch at the sides of my opening because when you're pulling that big bag through, sometimes it can tear it more than I want. So I'm gonna backstitch there. Now we're gonna make the strap. So we'll start at the ironing board. We'll keep that full length for now, and you can decide if you wanna shorten it later. So what we're gonna do is fold it in half and press a crease so it'll match up those raw edges all the way down. Now we'll open it up and we're gonna fold the long edges towards the center. We're not gonna go all the way to the center, but close to it. And the same with the other side. We're gonna top stitch both sides, both edges. So the strap's done, and we're gonna sew strap to the center of the side panel on each side with the raw edges lined up like that. Make sure your strap is not twisted. And also you can check and see if you want to shorten it at all or if you're happy with the length that you have. And then we'll sew across. So the straps are secured. So now I have the back of the bag up, and I'm going to take the front of the flap, put it against the back of the bag with the right side against the back of the bag. Line it up centered in the back, and I'll clip this in place, and we're going to sew across there as well. So the flap is sewn to the back. So it's gonna be like that. So when we put the lining together, I like to have the exterior of the bag inside out. Tuck everything inside. The flap will go inside. The strap's gonna get in there. And then we'll have the lining right side out. I'm gonna line up the pocket with the back. So the side that the pocket's on is gonna go on the same side as the flap. Shove it in there, and hopefully these line up really nicely. and they're the same size. We'll just start by matching up all the side seams. I like to open my seam allowances. And we're going to sew around that with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can start anywhere you want. I'm going to start in the middle of the front where it's nice and smooth and easy to get in. I'll just tuck it in there, bring it up. So now we're gonna birth this bag. So next I'm going to press the seam, and then I'm going to top stitch one more time all the way around, and it's going to be done. Oh yeah, we have to sew up the hole. And when we top stitch, we'll have the exterior of the bag right side up because your top stitch will always look nicer on that side. If your lining and your exterior are very different colors, you could choose a bobbin that is the same color as your lining so that the thread will just blend in with that and it won't really stand out much. Mine are pretty close anyway, so I'm just going to keep the same. So the last thing to do is sew up the opening in the bottom of the lining. We'll stitch very, very close to the edge.